Dianetics. It started out as a good idea. Two people get together, read a book, then through its use they would take each other to greater heights of intelligence, mental clarity, and awareness. The technique worked, and it still does today. Then it evolved into a religion, an organization, and ultimately a corrupt organization, and nowadays, if you mention Dianetics or Scientology in mixed company, you might as well be saying a swear word. And it's terribly sad how something that started out good turned into something rotten over a span of 75 years. Today is April the 19th, 2025. I'm Allison Tandri. I gave up on a normal life to pursue what I believed at the time was my only hope for salvation, and mankind's only hope for spiritual freedom. And now, like many others who left the church, I'm not buying it anymore. You can get a more detailed story of how and why I joined the church and eventually left elsewhere on this channel. But for now, let's focus on what was good about Scientology, and why it failed despite that. I will never ever tell someone, especially not a Scientologist, that the technology doesn't work. I know it does. With Scientology you can learn how to communicate better, work more efficiently, and reach new heights of awareness. So, if it's so great, why are they failing? Oddly enough, the church doesn't think they are failing. They will say they are the fastest growing religion, claiming 4.4 million join every year. 4.4 million a year. Really? Let's evaluate that. First of all, there would have to be at least 3 years in a row of such expansion to make it any sort of trend. That would mean at least 13 million people in the past 3 years alone, and let's throw 2 million on top of that who were there before that trend started. That would mean there are at least 15 million Scientologists in the world. That's about the same as the world Jewish population. Now, if there are as many or more Scientologists in the world as Jewish people, how come I only have to drive 15 minutes to get to my local synagogue, but I have to drive 90 minutes to get to the closest church of Scientology? Aside from smaller groups like Scientology missions and field groups, there are only about 200 regular organizations, which the church refers to as Class 5 orgs in the entire world. In the USA, there isn't even a Class 5 org for every state. There are about 3,000 synagogues right now in the USA. But you don't have to use mathematics to deduce this lie that there are millions of Scientologists in the world. Just walk into an organization. I'm not talking about the international ones in Clearwater or Los Angeles. I'm talking about your average Class 5 organization, and observe just how many people there are, and you'll get the picture. I think the church fools themselves into thinking there are so many Scientologists in the world because their definition of a Scientologist is so broad and vague. According to them, if you use Scientology to improve your life, that makes you a Scientologist. And I'm sorry, that's a ridiculous definition. Because that also means because I hammered a nail into my wall to hang up a picture, I am now a carpenter. Because I balanced my checkbook, I am now an accountant. Because I own a Bible, I am now a Christian. It's just that absurd. Scientology is a body of data. If you used any of it at any time in your life and benefited from it, well, good for you. But that doesn't mean you are going to make that who you are, or identify as a Scientologist when asked if you are one or not. Anyone who has gotten involved with the church beyond just reading a few pages of Dianetics knows that if you leave the church and identify as an ex-Scientologist, you risk being harassed by the church, and all of your Scientologist friends and family disowning you. Because of that, there are plenty of people out there who don't want to be Scientologists anymore but won't say so. They just stop going into the organization to do services or buy books. If you don't believe me, just ask a Scientologist or a staff member brave enough to be honest with you just how much of the organization's time and resources is taken recovering inactive members. You'd think the so-called fastest growing religion with 4.4 million new members each year wouldn't worry about anyone quitting, whether actively or passively. But they do care. They care to an extreme. They will call you. They will send you junk mail for the rest of your life. They will come to your door unannounced and uninvited to ask you why you are upset with them and try to handle you. And they are very good at handling you. After all, they've had a lot of practice handling those who are upset with them over the years. This is not the behavior of an organization that's growing. It's the way one acts when they are shrinking and desperate. Yet they continue to delude themselves that they are actually growing as a group. They aren't. That's the power the church has over the way their staff and public think and act. It would be impressive if it weren't so scary at the same time. Now, if you ask a Scientologist what they believe in, they will at once tell you that Scientology is not a belief, it's a practice. Well, it is a practice, but it is a belief too. While you can discover many truths while practicing Scientology and being a member of the church, make no mistakes, there are beliefs woven into it. It's insidious, actually. The primary belief is that Scientology is mankind's only hope for salvation. And I call that a belief because there's no shred of proof for it. There's also the belief that Scientology cannot be improved upon, and those trying to improve upon it, other than Hubbard himself, are cast out and labeled squirrels. That's right. They believe Scientology is a technology that cannot possibly be improved upon. A technology that cannot be improved upon. Perfect. Right. This is also ridiculous, if only for the fact Hubbard himself spent his life continually improving upon his subject. David Miscavige seems to think he can improve upon it with the revised books and new courses. But if you look at what he's doing, for example, with the Survival Rundown, which we have a video on explaining what's wrong with it, he's actually ruining Scientology not just as an organization, but as a subject too. But just because he's ruining Scientology doesn't mean that someone else couldn't improve on it. The guy just either doesn't know what he's doing, or he intends to ruin it. Many, including myself, believe it's his intent to shrink the church and turn it into some wishy-washy, benign sort of feel-good activity rather than something intended to set mankind free. And how would anyone even know that Scientology was mankind's only hope for salvation, and the technology is perfect, and cannot be improved upon? Did L. Ron Hubbard have a crystal ball which told him so? No one can know the future that well. Not even Hubbard. So the idea is that he discovered mankind's only hope for salvation and that his technology can never be improved upon falls firmly in the category of belief. I also remember reading Hubbard asserting that, and I quote, "We are the most ethical group there is." But any reasonable human being can see that is not the case. Staff are underpaid. Members are gouged for every last cent they have, convinced their spiritual freedom is more important than their financial security. The church violently protests the evils of psychiatry, yet if you have been institutionalized, they won't let you join staff or even get the spiritual counseling that would relieve you of the traumas that led to being institutionalized, or the trauma of being institutionalized itself. Get that? They denounce psychiatry and claim they are saving people from the evil clutches of Big Pharma and the institutions across the world, but at the same time they discriminate against anyone with psychiatric treatment. So no, I don't think the church is the most ethical group. But a Scientologist does. And that's not only a belief, but one that is easily proven as false. I've said before that the fundamental contradiction in Scientology is that it has two parts to it: the technology of freeing people, which could loosely be called Scientology as a subject, and then there are the many policies of the organization mixed in there. Scientology technology and Scientology policy. One is used to help free people, and the other is used to control them. That's what I've said before is the fundamental contradiction, and it still holds true. But there is something even more fundamental than that. It has to do with freedom and independence. You cannot have freedom without independence. Period. And make no mistake, Scientology is a dependency-driven practice. Dennis Stevens, a career Scientologist and friend of L. Ron Hubbard's, knew this. That's why he developed a method of spiritual recovery comparable to Hubbard's, but could be applied to oneself. That is what we teach you on this channel. It's called TROM. It stands for the resolution of the mind. A previously obscure mental and spiritual study that's making its way into the public eye, and gaining momentum as the days, weeks, months and years go by, mainly because of our efforts. I'm not going to tell you that TROM is going to free all mankind. I'm not going to tell you that it's your only hope. I'm not going to ask you for any money, loyalty, or demand any lip service either. All I'm going to tell you is that practicing TROM has made me happier, and it might make you happier too, so I'm inviting you to try it. TROM is something you can study yourself, apply to yourself, and I'm not going to charge you a dime to learn it, unlike Hubbard's technology, his gift to mankind that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to receive. The only thing I will ever tell you is how to correctly practice TROM. I won't tell you who your friends can be. I won't tell you who you can or can't talk to in your family. I won't discriminate against you for your race, creed, religion, sexual preferences, or history, and I won't turn you away if you've had psychiatric treatment either. There is no organization to answer to. No therapist telling you what's wrong with you. It's just you, a book, some videos, audio lectures, and your determination to resolve your mental and spiritual condition, and my help if you ask for it. And that's it. It's that simple. And it's no surprise that we are growing and the church isn't. There's nothing in it for me other than the satisfaction I get from preventing another person like me from falling for the same song and dance. The outright lie that somehow your spiritual freedom is dependent on a therapist, a minister, or an organization that asks you for money, loyalty, and obedience and says you won't be able to save yourself by any other means. If I only save one person from that trap, then all my work will have been worth it. But I already know it's been more than that, and there will be many others to follow, and that's why I don't intend to ever quit doing what I do, for you and anyone else willing to listen, watch, and read. I'm Allison Tandri. We are DIY Salvation. Don't just use your mind. Resolve it.